Earth is the cradle of reason, but humanity cannot live there forever. The future of mankind lies in space. That was the statement made by renowned spacecraft designer Konstantin Tsiolkovsky. His portrait is currently on display at NASA. It has been more than half a century since the first spaceflight. We've gradually become familiar with space-related terminology: gravity, zero gravity, vacuum, radiation. These once foreign words, sounding like they came from alien civilizations of the future, are now part of our everyday language. Hello, everyone. But do we truly understand space as much as we think we do? Space is not a place meant for Homo sapiens to live. It remains a brutally hostile environment for our fragile species. Welcome to Exploration Power. This is your home, so rest assured, it's completely safe. Today, we're going to explore this topic. So what exactly are the dangers of space? Outer space is generally considered to begin at 62 miles above sea level, what's known as the Kármán line. At that altitude, the air becomes so thin that airplane wings can no longer generate enough lift to fly. Another atmospheric layer, called the exosphere, extends to roughly 6,200 miles above Earth. And beyond that lies the true vacuum of space. However, for a human being, whether it's at 62 miles or 6,200 miles, without a protective suit, both can be equally lethal. In fact, our so-called death zone actually begins below 29,029 feet, the height of Mount Everest. That's why anyone venturing into space must wear a pressurized suit filled with breathable air. But what happens if the oxygen supply is suddenly cut off? When an astronaut exits the spacecraft, a temporarily safe haven in the vacuum of space, what keeps them from drifting off into the void? In space, astronauts are tethered to the craft by a safety line. One end attached to their suit, the other to the spacecraft. If they accidentally let go of that line by even a few inches, it could be the final mistake of their life. If they can't reach the lifeline again, they may drift away into the endless expanse of space. To reach back toward the rope, they must push off of something solid. If not, inertia will only carry them farther and farther from the spacecraft. At that point, they're left with only two choices, both of which end in doom, and in reality, they won't even have the power to choose. Everything depends on the initial direction of movement they made. If the astronaut begins drifting toward Earth, eventually, gravity will pull them into the planet's dense atmosphere. And even if there's still some oxygen left in their suit by then, survival is unlikely. Conversely, if the initial force sends the astronaut in the opposite direction, away from Earth, they may stay alive a little longer. Before the oxygen runs out, there's a small possibility that a tiny piece of space debris or micrometeoroid could puncture the suit. But if that doesn't happen, the astronaut will die slowly and painfully from suffocation. After that, the suit, carrying the body, will continue to orbit the Earth indefinitely. If the suit is suddenly ruptured, the remaining air inside will expand violently, causing severe bodily damage accompanied by intense pain. There is, however, a third possible option. Some modern spacesuits are now equipped with mini jetpacks. With these, astronauts can adjust their trajectory and return to the spacecraft. Regardless of the outcome, those who have given their lives in space, these space martyrs, stand as solemn proof of humanity's unwavering determination to conquer the cosmos. Those science fiction novels and films have made interstellar travel seem routine. In reality, we've never gone beyond Earth's orbit. Aside from Earth, the only celestial body humans have ever set foot on is the Moon, our closest neighbor, located about 220,000 miles away. That distance is roughly equivalent to what a personal car might travel over a 10-year span. As of 2024, the total number of astronauts who have died in the history of space exploration remains relatively low. 24 individuals are listed in the roll of space martyrs. Among them, 6 died during pre-launch preparations on Earth, and 18 perished during actual space missions. However, to this day, there has been no recorded death that occurred while astronauts were working outside the spacecraft in open space. The first deadly tragedy in spaceflight history occurred with the Soyuz 1 mission. On April 24, 1967, Soyuz 1, piloted by cosmonaut Vladimir Komarov, became the first spaceflight to end in fatal disaster. The next day, the Soviet Union had planned to launch Soyuz 2, a 3-person spacecraft, to dock with Soyuz 1 in orbit. But things started to go wrong from the very beginning. The solar panel failed to deploy, the attitude control system wouldn't activate, and the onboard batteries quickly drained. The spacecraft was forced to return to Earth immediately. But at that point, neither the reserve nor the main parachutes deployed. As a result, the capsule crash-landed at tremendous speed, slammed into the ground, and burst into flames. Komarov's body was almost completely destroyed. The second tragedy in the history of spaceflight occurred on June 29, 1971, again involving the famous Soyuz spacecraft, this time Soyuz 11. As Soyuz 11 separated from the Salyut 1 space station, cabin pressure inside the hatch began to drop. After the malfunction was addressed, the re-entry capsule slowly descended back to Earth. Remarkably, official flight reports noted that communication with the spacecraft continued almost up to the moment of landing. However, once the capsule touched down, there was no response from the crew to ground team calls. When the hatch was opened, the entire crew was found dead from asphyxiation. According to the official report, the cause was a cabin ventilation valve that opened suddenly, causing rapid depressurization. Some experts believe the crew may have died immediately after undocking from the station, and that the spacecraft returned to Earth carrying only their lifeless bodies. In reality, Soyuz return capsules were quite small and lacked sufficient space for full pressure suits. At the time, the cosmonauts were flying in standard training uniforms. The 3 who perished in this tragedy were Georgy Dobrovolsky, Vladislav Volkov, and Viktor Patsayev. The Challenger explosion remains one of the most horrifying tragedies in spaceflight history, claiming the lives of 7 American astronauts. The victims were Francis Scobie, Ellison Onizuka, Michael Smith, Ronald McNair, Judith Resnick, Gregory Jarvis, and Krista McAuliffe. The accident occurred on January 28, 1986, during the launch of Challenger mission STS-51L, part of NASA's newer Space Shuttle program. The program was designed to replace the smaller Apollo capsules with larger, reusable spacecraft capable of round trips between Earth and space, accommodating more crew. However, in the pursuit of cost efficiency, safety was compromised. The emergency escape system had been removed. The shuttle relied on thermal protection tiles to shield its exterior. But the combination of decisions and vulnerabilities proved catastrophic. Just 1 minute after liftoff, a flame from a solid rocket booster ignited the external fuel tank at an altitude of about 46,000 feet, causing the shuttle to explode. The crew cabin fell into the ocean, and none of the 7 astronauts survived. The official investigation concluded that the root cause was a failure in the booster joint seal, which allowed hot gas to escape and compromised the aluminum and heat-resistant tile structure. The absence of a crew escape system was also a critical factor in the tragedy. The mid-air disintegration of Space Shuttle Columbia deepened the tragedy of Challenger, further stalling progress in America's spaceflight program and dashing hopes of commercializing shuttle-based space travel anytime soon. Still, the shuttle program continued. Its final chapter was marked by the Columbia disaster on February 1, 2003. At that point, Columbia was the oldest shuttle in NASA's fleet. It first flew in 1981. Over 22 years, Columbia completed 28 missions and spent a total of 300 days in space. Unlike the Test Shuttle Enterprise or the Challenger, Columbia was originally equipped with ejection seats during its maiden flight. However, the ejection system was removed after its 6th mission. Columbia's final mission began on January 16, 2003. The crew included 6 Americans: Rick Husband, William McCool, Michael Anderson, Laurel Clark, David Brown, Kalpana Chawla, and Elon Ramon, the first Israeli astronaut in history. Within just 1 minute after liftoff, a piece of foam insulation struck the shuttle's wing. At the time, the collision wasn't considered critical, and the shuttle continued to operate normally. However, during re-entry into Earth's atmosphere at an altitude of 38 miles, the damaged wing ignited at the point of impact, causing Columbia to break apart midair. Only a few fragments of the shuttle structure made it to the ground. None of the 7 astronauts survived. None of the investigators involved in the accident had any doubt about the root cause. It was the damage to the wing from the foam insulation strike. Still, there was broad disagreement when reviewing the shuttle's design and the series of flawed decisions behind it. Some experts concluded that the foam impact had long been underestimated and posed a serious threat to flight safety. Others argued the Columbia disaster was inevitable, and that going 2 decades without a similar tragedy was nothing more than luck. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share it on social media. We deeply appreciate your support. See you in the next video. Stay safe, everyone.